Welcome back, everybody, here at the Chris Salcedo Show. California Democrats were forced to reverse course after they blocked a bill that would stiffen penalties for repeated sex trafficking of minors. Senate Bill SB 14 passed with bipartisan support ultimately in the upper chamber, but it died when it reached the Assembly Public Safety Committee, where Democrats claimed it would penalize victims and worsen incarceration rates. After major backlash, the committee reconvened and then passed the bill, but not without drama. Watch.
Colleagues, today we have a choice to make. You can choose a team. Pick pedophiles or children.
Point of order.
It is against the rules of this body to disparage members of this body. Personally, suggesting that members of this body support human trafficking in any such form is doing such. And I request that the minority leader on the floor refrain his comments to their decision to decide to suspend the rules in the Constitution of the state of California at hand.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, you don't support it, but you don't want to penalize it either. Joining me now, California Assembly Minority Leader James Gallagher and Chairman of Reform California and host of the DeMaio Report, Carl DeMaio. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. James, I want to start with you. There's no way Democrats reverse course because of anything you guys in the GOP did out there in California. Wasn't it Democrat voters who moved the needle on this, saying, look, this idea of you standing in the way of penalizing pedophiles, that's not going to fly. Isn't that what happened?
Well, I think it was absolutely the GOP. I mean, we called this out immediately. We got this out there, and obviously the voting public thought this was completely outrageous. And these guys, the only reason they really did anything is because of the exposure, and they were embarrassed, and then they called this emergency hearing to do the right thing, but only after being embarrassed. This committee has killed every major public safety initiative to try and bring some kind of law and order to California.
Yeah, well, I remember Tombstone. Was it the movie Tombstone? Yeah, law and order don't fly around here. You savvy? Carl, after finally blocking the bill, Democrat Assemblyman Reggie Jones Sawyer said, quote, 3 strikes is ineffective in preventing crime and protecting the public safety. We will not build on a deeply flawed sentencing system that unfairly punishes disadvantaged communities. Wait, child predators are considered disadvantaged communities by Democrats? Really?
Yeah. Let's just look at the pattern of behavior here. This is the same Democrat caucus in California that voted for SB 145, which allows a sex predator to molest a child as young as age 14, and avoid mandatory listing on the sex offender registry so we can prevent him or her from doing it again. This is also the same legislature and same governor that just signed into law a bill that would take away any enforcement against prostitution. Our police officers will no longer be able to apprehend people who are loitering and soliciting for the purpose of prostitution. And the reason why we're trying to get that tool back in the hands of law enforcement is that we're trying to protect these children. These, Chris, these are young girls and boys, predominantly Latino and African American, who are being trafficked for sex trade. And we got pimps that are profiting off this, gangbangers, cartels that are profiting off this. The only people being protected here are the gangbangers and the pimps and the cartels. And that seems to be the new constituency of California Democrats.
Well, yeah, and as we played in the preamble and we've shown repeatedly, whistleblower testimony says the federal government now is complicit in that pimping effort. James, Senate Minority, I'm going to go national for you now. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell speaking at an event in Kentucky. Take a look at how some in the audience reacted. Listen.
We're up against folks who closed schools and then told you that teachers unions know what's best for your kids. We're up against folks who'd rather let repeat offenders walk free than get tough on crime.
All right, a chance of retire. This event is known for getting lively insults, zingers, one-liners, all that kind of stuff. It's part of their tradition out there. But there's a kernel of truth I want to focus in on. The current Republican base doesn't believe the Republican leaders actually oppose Democrats anymore. Do you think the GOP has an identity problem?
Well, I think that people want to see us fighting. They want to see us, doing something to stop this crazy stuff, this crazy progressive agenda that's being pushed by the modern Democratic Party. And so I can tell you as a Republican leader out here in California, I have taken the position of we are going on the offensive. We're going to call these guys out for the terrible policies they're trying to pass. We just talked about one of them where they don't want to penalize child traffickers. And Carl made some great points of other areas where these progressive Democrats are making it so there's no penalty for crime. They're releasing people from prison early. And we need to be, as a GOP party, calling it out and fighting it and changing the laws. And the only way we change the laws is by winning elections and getting out there and giving people a clear distinction about what is right and what is wrong. And I think that in this next election, we're going to see a pendulum swing here in California and in the nation. And people, and I think people are right to say, if you're not doing that, then move aside, and let's get people in there who are going to do it.
That's tough to do. Tough to do. The national, the California. Look, I used to work in the California media. San Diego's my hometown, and I escaped to Texas. But it's hard to do out there to get your perspective out there when you have a corrupt media that won't tell the truth about what's really going on. Carl, last thing, I want you to focus on Joe Biden, if you will. 11 days he's been on vacation. He returned to the White House only to leave again for Arizona and New Mexico, friendly Democrat territory. You know, it's been 13 days since he answered any questions from the American people. How much longer do you think he's going to be able to hide from this growing criminal bribery scandal of his?
Is he in a wheelchair there, or is that a lawn chair? I can't figure out. But look, here's the reality. The walls are closing in on Joe Biden and the Biden crime family. The sad reality, though, is just like California media refuses to cover the problems that we have out here in this state, the national media, the mainstream media, refuses to really hold Joe Biden accountable for all of the misdeeds that are now surfacing. And they also refuse to apologize to the American people for going along with the cover-up during the 2020 election when they said that there was nothing to see here, there was no laptop that was found. And so what you're seeing is a challenge. We're seeing, as we just mentioned, Mitch McConnell not providing leadership in Washington, and that goes for a lot of other Republicans. It's why Democrats are able to get a lot of their policies through, is that we don't have real fighters in these positions in many cases. And you also have a media that's acting more and more like California media has for the last 20 years. No accountability, no oversight, no transparency, and no opportunity for the minority party to offer an alternative. If you want to know what's going to happen to the nation, just look at what happened in California when we didn't have good leadership. I've got to commend James Gallagher for being a fighter, and he's actually one of the best leaders we've had in decades out here. But if we don't get leaders in Washington to fight, and if we don't get an independent media, if we don't get journalism back in this country, then we will have happen to America what's already happened here in California. We're trying to turn the tide.
Well, I want you guys.
I'm warning the rest of the country, you don't want to end up like California.
Yeah, I want you guys to come back on because I think we got to talk about, because this stealth campaign that Gavin Newsom is running. If you want America to look like California, then go Gavin Newsom. James Gallagher, Carl DeMaio will get you back on to discuss that, gentlemen. Thank you.